welcome to Bad Music Taste and Other Ways to Ruin Your Life. My name is Dominic.
And my name is Sam. Dominic has our record this week.
This week's record is Faster Than the World by H2O. This record was first released in 1999 on Epitaph Records. The copy I have here is a picture disc signed by H2O singer Toby Morse. But anyways, today our guest is Milo Aukerman, singer of the Descendents. Milo, how are you?
I'm good. How are you guys?
Doing pretty good. So, seeing as you're a scientist, I would love to hear your whole take on the coronavirus. And knowing that you have kids, I'd like to hear what you think about schools reopening in the fall as well.
Yeah, it's really a difficult time. My son just graduated high school, and so they had to have a kind of a weird graduation ceremony where we dropped him off at one part of the school, and he walked through part of the school, and then grabbed his diploma, and then we picked him up again, and they also had some like a Zoom version of graduation. So it's, and there was no prom, so it's been a tough year to kind of be celebrating those types of milestones. And then my daughter's 16, and so she's going to be a junior next year in high school, and she likes to stay busy. She likes to have a lot of activities, and she was just complaining earlier today, like that she's just kind of stuck in her room, in her bed. She's not allowed layabout, but she's been forced to be a layabout, and it's really driving her crazy. I actually wrote a song about their experiences, so maybe I can put that out at some point.
So it's known that One More Day is one of the Descendents' saddest songs. So what was your reaction when Bill had handed you those lyrics?
Yeah, well, that was about his dad, and he was going through that, and we had gotten together. This is prior to the band being back together in 2011, but this is more like in 2002 or thereabouts. And he was recounting to me how he's trying to help his dad out, and his dad was just so old and so crotchety, and that he wasn't allowing his son to help. And so that's where that song came out of. I'm not sure if you've ever heard a song by Evan Dando, which actually Bill wrote, called Steve's Boy. So you can think of Steve's Boy as part 2 of One More Day. And I like Steve's Boy a lot. I actually like Steve's Boy more than One More Day. So I would definitely look for that. It's a Lemonheads record. So Lemonheads from about 2004 or 5 or thereabouts. Steve's Boy is a great song. And so it's that same theme of dealing with your parent dying and how, very gut wrenching. My dad passed away in 2004, and it took me a few years, but I finally wrote a song about it, and showed it to Bill, and said, hey, this is my version of One More Day, basically.
Yeah.
So we're getting to the point in our lives where all the shit that happens, and all the kind of adult like stuff happens, and so we try to write about it, because it's the only thing we know how to do, is to try to document our real life experiences. And that's why I just wrote a song about, like I said, a song about the pandemic. Yeah. I just can't think of anything else to do at this point. Write a song about what's going on around me, and that's how that song came about.
So we recently talked to Bill, and he told us that Roger Durline used to make like these little comic strips called The Mishaps of Milo, like using the little stick figure. So what was your initial reaction to seeing like stick figure cartoon Milo?
Well, I mean, initially, he's a very close friend of mine, was in high school. And and I thought, why is my best friend making fun of me? Why? Because I mean, that's what these cartoons were like to make. But that's how friends are. Friends are always ripping each other, and so he was taking a dig at me, and everyone thought it was funny, and I eventually thought it was funny too. And he got very good at crafting these little strips about my variety of pratfalls, I guess I'll call them, of making my way through high school, and being the uber nerd that I was, and he was able to document some of that. And then when he ran for student council president, he had to make up the school election posters, and he made a real big one with that face plastered right on it.
Oh, wow.
And, Milo says, "Vote for Roger." But I think that was the starting point of like, oh, this is like kind of this stick figure's kind of got a good presence on the poster or something.
Yeah.
Like that. And so when we decided to use it, or I should say Bill decided to use it when we made that first record. So it all worked out in the end. For me, at least, it started out as like a teasing thing, but it was, I can embrace it now as this kind of goofy thing. And when we do T-shirts now, we try to do T-shirts for, like every show we do, we'll try to do a different T-shirt. And I'm always thinking, okay, what stupid thing is Milo going to do? In wherever, Grand Rapids, Michigan, or whatever, like we've got to come up with some goofy thing that he does. So yeah. But it is odd because it's like, that's me, and yet I've got to have somehow, it's like it's somehow divorced from me, and yet it is me at the same time. So.
Right. You have to figure out what you're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And not get too like precious about it. Not be like, well, I got to be doing something heroic or something cool. It's like, nah, forget that.
Yeah.
I got to be doing something stupid for this T-shirt.
Yeah. That's what I try to do, anyways.
So correct us if we're wrong, but it appears that you've decided to stay out of social media, and I was curious as to why that is.
Yeah, well, I only ever got on Facebook. Well, I guess right now I'm on Snapchat, but I mean, I use it mainly to communicate with my kids.
Yeah.
Getting with it, but it's a good way to try to catch up with them when I can't get them through a text or whatever. But yeah, I was on Facebook through about the middle of 2018, I guess. And then I've got the politics that were going on at the time with the current administration and whatnot.
Yeah.
And the fact that I just had a lot of bitterness about how that all went down in 2016. And I also hold Zuckerberg at all somewhat responsible for all the BS that happened in that election. And they I kept thinking, well, now they're gonna get their act together and work it out. But no, they haven't really. To this date, they haven't done the right thing in my view. And so I just wrote it off. I think I had the Facebook app, but I wasn't using it at all. And then something popped up as a notification, and it was Carl, actually Carl, the bass player, saying, "I think I'm taking a break from Facebook." And I said, "Good idea. I'm just deleting it." I just deleted it. And
yeah,
I know I've got mixed feelings about social media in general, because my daughter now deals with a lot of the issues of being on social media and having there be just these kind of like falsehoods that get perpetuated through social media, and just the level of rancor and the level of of backbiting and backstabbing and all that kind of BS.
Yeah.
It's like, there's got to be a better way to kind of hook up with your friends than to have that be. And people get so holier than thou on the whole thing, and it just the coronavirus really kind of brought that into full gear for her, because of everyone's like, well, are you social distancing? Are you doing X, Y, and Z? Are you wearing all this kind of stuff? And we do our best, but there's always someone who's a little more kind of anal about it than we are, and they can kind of like point the finger. Everyone's pointing fingers at everyone else.
Yeah.
So that's my feeling. I feel like if I'd get back on a social media if I felt like it could be divorced of all political not political viewpoints, but actually just politicians. No politicians on my Facebook. No politicians on my social media. That's when I joined.
Yeah. Social media is just like toxic in general before all the politics. So adding that all in just makes it worse.
Yeah, I agree. So, I mean, I really wish there was. I've been looking around for the right platform where I can, kind of touch bases with people, but not have it be this toxic environment. And I haven't found it yet.
So what is the biggest misconception about your career, whether it's being the singer of the Descendents or being a scientist?
Biggest misconception, I guess, the band maybe one misconception is that we were popular back in the day. We weren't really that popular back in the 80s. And I think there's some revisionism where people think back and they must have been this huge band, but we were a teeny tiny band back in the 80s and even somewhat in the 90s. And so I think I'd like to dispel people of any rumors that we were like very popular. The bands of the time that got to be more popular than us, like bands like X or Black Flag, we were kind of we were much smaller than them. And then in the 90s we were a pretty small band too. We'd gotten a little bigger, but then you had bands like Green Day and all that were so we've always been the underdog band and all that. And that's maybe, I hope people don't forget that's kind of what we view ourselves as. We don't ever view ourselves as this big name band, and that's maybe a misconception people have.
So being that you've succeeded in the fields of both your main interests, what inspired your interest in punk rock and science and biochemistry?
Well, I mean, growing up in LA was a huge influence for me for punk rock. I mean, these days you can just grab music from wherever. There's no geographic limitations. But back then, what I could really immerse myself in was the local scene that was happening in LA, and I dove in head first into that. There was all these great bands happening, and I'd come out of as an earlier teen, I was mostly into like new wave music, and then started to listen to some of the local punk, and quickly shifted into being a huge punk rock fan of just mainly of local LA punk, and was hugely inspirational to me as like I'd say a junior in high school, and I just found myself going to all the shows, and I discovered this band, the Descendents, that Bill had started, and said, "Hey, dude, can I sing?" And so to me, it's a real magical period to kind of think about that. Now, coincidentally, at the same time, I was starting to kind of discover the science part of my life, because I was as a junior, I had to give a book report, an oral report on some subject in my biology class, and the teacher said, you can't get out of doing this, you got to do it. And I was really bummed at even having to do the thing, until I realized I could do it on DNA, because I'd read about DNA. And so So once I got my head wrapped around what DNA was, it just opened up this whole avenue of possibilities. Wow, DNA, you can do all this cool stuff with it. And I got kind of sucked in or immersed in that whole area. And so these two kind of passions kind of came around at the same time, and just kind of moved parallel through my whole life, basically. All right. Thanks a lot.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.